Hello, everyone. It's Brian McFarland with the McFarland Construction Group, and here we are again delivering another episode of TMCG University. And today's topic, I'd like to discuss the need for permitting. Really quick, just to start off, I just wanted to share a quick story with you, one of which that I had with a potential client that I met some time ago. And she invited me to her home. She wanted to do some interior renovations. She wanted to kind of open up her first floor to an open floor concept, take down some walls, redo some bathrooms, create some new bathrooms, change some of the living area that were bedrooms into office spaces. It was a full-on renovation, right? I love the idea. I love the concept. I like where she was going with the whole dream wish list, how she wanted to open up the floor plan, how she wanted to increase her bathroom size in the home. And I think it was going to be a really beautiful end result to her project, provided that, I could accomplish a lot of the things that she was looking for. So she walked me through the home. She shared all of her ideas. A lot of them were really great ideas. I loved how she had the concept and the vision in her mind on how she wanted to lay everything out and how it all kind of uh, played into the home and the motif with the flow. That's really important to us, like when designing a home or even renovating a space in a home, that it has to have a certain flow, that it flows with the body of the home, and it's not like you're going into from a bedroom into a kitchen. You know what I mean? So we went through all of her wish lists, her wants, her dreams, and when we were done, I said, hey, this is a really good idea, but let's talk about what are the first steps. So when we kind of got down that whole path and we started talking about first steps, one of the first things I said to her was that I need to invite my architect in. And my architect, of course, is also an engineer. And, I could assist with designing the space or the new space, the proposed space with her, with my architect. And that would be one of the first steps we would do. Then I had additional conversation and I talked to her regarding that, because of the work that she required or the work that she would like to have done, it would definitely require us pulling permits, right? And I think I've went into this in a couple of other videos where I explain when permits are needed and not needed, and it varies again from county to county, city to city, municipality to municipality. In her case, what she wanted to do was more than a level one alteration. And of course, with the fact that she wanted to do plumbing, electrical, possibly taking down load bearing walls, removing doors and windows that were exterior to the structure, all of those things require permitting, right? So when I said the word permit, I can see in her face was like, whoa, a permit? I don't want to do a permit. And I clearly told her, I said, look, I would love to do your project for you, but my firm will not do projects of this size without a permit. That's not what we do. So I explained to her why it was so important to pull a permit. But again, I think a lot of the customers that we run into that want us to do their projects without a permit, I think they have this misnomer on what permits really do for them, right? So today I want to kind of talk to you about that and kind of make you, whether it be the investor, the homeowner, the future builder, the contractor. We have a lot of contractors that don't know when they should or shouldn't pull permits, right? I just want to kind of give you a little high level on why permits are important, right? First thing I want you to think of is it's not to penalize you. It's not a way of generating revenue. Yes, they collect fees. Yes, there's costs associated with doing permits, but it's not because they want to generate money. So let me just pause here, and I want to kind of just go through a quick short list that I kind of pulled up and put together, just kind of explain the high level of what permits really do for all of us, right? So the first one is public safety. When you're pulling a building permit, it's crucial. It's crucial to the integrity, the structure, the accessibility, and the safety of that building, right? Whether it's new construction, whether it's alterations, whether it's even basic repairs, right? The goal is to make sure that once you're done working in that space, whether it's new construction alterations, that it is a safe space. It was done correctly, right? It's not going to come down, whether by imploding, right? I'm being a little dramatic now. It's not going to catch on fire. All of these things are done by a licensed contractor that, again, air quotes, they should know what they're doing, right? Second thing is it's protection of the property owners, right? At the end of the day, when you, the property owner, do things the right way, it's going to save you so much time and money now than you would in the end. Case in point. So, for example, outside of the fact that pulling a permit is for your safety and mine, what happens is that when a homeowner, an investor, a fix and flipper, whatever you want to call yourself, right? When the premise is that you have this property and you've done some alterations to this property, right? And a lot of the work that was done required a permit and you didn't pull any, what happens is that when you go to sell that home and that realtor who's pretty savvy and or that home inspector looks at a lot of the things that were done, the first thing they're going to ask you before they even start doing research, was there a permit pull for this? Whatever this is, new roof, new water heater, new AC system, a change out of an AC system, those sort of things. And what happens is that can actually hinder and halt the sale of that home, right? Reason being is, number one, the potential buyer will not, and most times does not feel comfortable purchasing a home that was done or had work done without permits. Because what that may say to the potential home buyer is that, hey, there were some shortcuts taken. And I'm not ready to put up this kind of money, whether it's $1 or $1,000,000, and take the chance that something's going to happen to me in the future because that underground plumbing to that new bathroom that they put in the pool area for my pool bath starts to clog. It's a good point, right? That's number one. So just think of it from the safety and the sake of you, the homeowner and or investor. When you go to sell this house, it could prevent you from a sale. Number three, compliance and regulations, right? So permits ensure the construction activities are done correctly. What does that mean? That simply means that, once you get a permit, or let's take it a step back. And I apologize. My mind is moving fast and all the different steps and phases. And I eat and breathe and live this stuff. So I feel a little bad that I'm kind of jumping around on you. But let's take it a step back. Before you even get an approved permit to do the work that you're looking to do, you have to submit an application, right? And in that application, whether it's for a replacement AC system, whether it's for new construction, whether it's for replacing windows, doors, exterior doors, that sort of thing, you have to submit an application for that work. In that application, it's going to ask you for the body of work, right? And you're going to break down what it is that you're doing. Sometimes, in addition to having that building application or electrical application, you may have to submit some kind of plan, whether it be a site plan. I'm just trying to think of some other words they use. A drawing, a plan set, depending on the scope of the work, of course, right? But typically you have to show some kind of drawing to show what the existing is and what the proposed will be. Also, with the proposed, they also want to understand how are you proposing on altering this project, right? Whether it's a wall, whether it's installing a door, or, hey, what materials are you using? Are these up to FBC code, right? Why? The storms we get, right? The hurricanes we go through. We don't just allow, when I say we, I'm talking about the building departments. They don't just allow you to put anything in anything that you want to use. It has to be approved as one of the material or materials that are allowed to be utilized in different parts of Florida. All right. So with that said, there is some kind of compliance that goes along with that. And that's just another piece of the puzzle that comes along with getting an approved permit. Number 4, legal consequences. That one is exactly what I mean. If you, handymen, investors, homeowners, contractors, are found on a property doing work that requires a permit, if you are caught, number one, code enforcement or an inspector could shut you down on the project, which is basically a stop work order, right? And what that does is it warns you that if you take one more step, one more day doing anything before you get a permit, a approved permit, they will fine you, i.e., or even go to another extent. And I've rarely ever seen anyone go to jail, but it could go as far as that. With that said, your project gets shut down. Now, what happens? Well, what happens is if a contractor wasn't initially doing the work, even though he or she should know better and know that they should have pulled a permit, typically contractors don't usually do things, and I'm not going to say that they're innocent, right? But usually contractors don't do work without a permit because they're licensed, and they will be made an example of if they're caught. Usually it's homeowners, investors, fix and flippers, handymen. And if those individuals are caught, what's going to happen is you are now going to be required to go get a licensed contractor to establish and submit and get an approved permit to complete this work, right? What now happens is it now will cost you time and money. And even though getting a permit does cost you time and money, this is going to cost you even more because now you're going to be faced with fines. Then, depending on the temperature of the entity, the building department in whatever city you're working in, depending on their temperature, and if they want to kind of make you accountable for what you've done in your actions, it could be a slow go for you, right? But the biggest piece of the puzzle is that at the end of the day, the contractor, the licensed contractor that's coming in to redo the work, like for me, example, if you hired me and you get caught and you get a stop work order and, I come in and you did a full on renovation, right? The walls are already painted, you got texture on there, you made new bathrooms. Guess what's going to happen when I come in, right? I'm tearing it all down. There is no way a licensed contractor is going to come in, sign off and say, you know what, okay, I'm going to pick up where this other person left off, whoever that person was, and I'm going to say it's okay that, their work was done correctly. I don't know any contractor that would. I know I'm not, right? As a licensed contractor, everything that you just expensed to do what you've done, and hopefully it wasn't too far before you get caught, I have to tear it all down because I have to see with my own eyes to make sure that everything that was done to code. Because at the end of the day, once my firm's name and license number goes on that project, regardless on what was done prior to, we last touched it, last owned it. That's just the nature of the beast. So I say to you, and I forewarn those who do things that require permits, please think about that because it's going to cost you double or triple what you've already spent. Number 5, inspections. Right? So inspections are linked with permits. And basically, it's nothing more that when you go through particular phases, depending on the scope of work that you're doing, there's inspections for certain types of work. It could be one, it could be multiple, right? But at the end of the day, as you're going through the process of doing the work that you have been hired to do, there may be inspections throughout different phases of that scope of work that you have to stop, call in the inspector. Inspector comes in, he checks it, makes sure everything follows and meets Florida building code. And if it does, it gets approved and you get to move on to the next phase until the next inspection is due. That's just good business, right? Because what happens is, even though your permits and everything come out of building review and it's been approved, the contractor still has to do work to the code. Contractors are human, right? And if many of them, like myself, that hire subcontractors, and for me, it's really good subcontractors that we have on our team, in addition to the employees that we have for different phases of work that we do, we have to go behind and make sure that the work that was done is correctly done, right? Now, if we happen to miss something, and it's something small, right? Now it's the inspector's job who comes out that's checking the work that you or your subs have done to make sure that it's done correctly. So yes, that could delay some things if that sub or that contractor does not know exactly what they're doing, and that would that would have me pause, right? Because I'd be afraid now, because you as a contractor, you're supposed to know. But high pie in the sky, I'm just kind of throwing that out there. Inspections are something that's done just to be another safeguard that the contractor or subcontractor that you have hired does and has done the work completely to Florida building code, period. Okay? Number 6, property value. What does a permit do for your property value? Some people don't think about this a lot of times, right? So, for example, I've seen situations where homeowners have done their roofs themselves. They didn't pull a permit, whether it's a contractor's permit or an owner builder's permit. They've done it themselves, whether they hired a handyman or their cousin and their uncle came by on a Sunday, drank some beers, and they did it. And they come down the road where one day they decide to sell the home. The roof is still fairly new or new. And the realtor and or the inspector says, hey, I see you got a new roof. Did you pull a permit? Because I don't see anything in the records for that. And he's like, oh, no, I did it myself. That could kind of kill the value in the sale of your home, number one, because it can't be proved or proven. There's really nothing you can stand on. And the buyer can say, hey, yeah, it's a new roof, but yeah, I'm not really feeling that. I need to get another person out there just to make sure that it was done correctly. I need some concession on that purchase. That's one, right? The second thing is that people fail to kind of think about is the fact that when you do your own roof yourself, and this, I'm just using roof as an example, and you contact your insurance company, you say, hey, listen, I just did my roof. Can I get some credit or discount towards the overall annual cost of my home insurance premium? The first question the insurance company is going to ask you, okay, can you send me a certificate of completion? Some counties call it certificate of completion. Some insurance company may just ask you for the permit number or the permit information so they can fact check it. And if so, and if it's legit, they're going to give you whatever the discount is, right? If you can't prove that information, you're not getting any discounts. And it may even open up a can of worms where the insurance company now feels a little uncomfortable saying, hey, we're insuring a home that we don't know who just did this roof and we don't know if it's done correctly. So God forbid if there's a storm and you get some kind of rain or something leaks or the shingles come off and it creates damage inside your home that now we may get a claim for, we don't like that, i.e. the insurance company, they can drop you. Keep that in mind, folks. That's a really important one, especially here in the state of Florida where we only have 2 insurance companies right now and one of them is state-owned. The last 2 that I have is legal requirements, right? So in the state of Florida, it is the law that if you are looking to alter things in your home, if you are an investor and you're looking to rehab a home and flip it and sell it to someone else, it is the law that the work that you do that requires a permit, it is the law, and I'm going to keep saying it, that you pull a permit. Because if you don't, you can be liable to lawsuits and a world of other things. Remember that I said that. It is the law. And then lastly, basically it kind of rolls back up to everything that I said, financial institutions, basically again, with refinancing or financing or the purchase of a home, it could hinder the sale or the refinance if you don't have the correct paperwork to prove that the work that was done that required a permit, that a permit was pulled. So again, that's the long and the short of it. I'm not trying to scare you, and I don't want you to think, if you're watching this video, that you're still on the fence if you should pull a permit for something and yada, yada, yada. I will tell you this. Pulling a permit is not a big deal, right? It's not like you're going to be held up for months on end. If you have a great, not a good, a great contractor, i.e. the McFarland Construction Group, we're going to stay on top of your permit process. And because we work in so many different counties in Central Florida, we have great relationships with a lot of building departments. We get the work in and we get it out. One of the reasons why our permits go through the process very quickly than others is because we get it in correctly the first time. We know what's needed. We know how to structure it. We get it in, we get it out. The quicker we get it in and the better the quality of the work that we submit, the quicker we get it out. And once we get it out, it's just your standard time frame. Inspections are not going to cost you time because that's all factored in the overall time that I'm going to give you for the scope of work. But more importantly, my team and I, we have this premise and this understanding that we get it right the first time. I'll be honest with you. I'm going to toot my own horn. And this is not to be cocky. We do not fail inspections. We just don't. We're that good. And I can say that with certainty. Now, okay, real world. In the event that we get a partial or we do happen to fail an inspection, most times it's challenged because, again, at the end of the day, and I can go on and on about permitting, but just keep in mind, and I've also spoken about this in other episodes, keep in mind, we follow stringent Florida building codes. We even go above and beyond what's required and recommended by the state. But here's the caveat. In every city and every county, they have the right, based on where that city or that home is in the state of Florida, that city and county can require and or request the contractor to go above and beyond what's considered standard for the Florida building code. Those are the only times that we've ever had issue where we may have run into just a partial pass or a complete fail. But in those instances, because we've already exceeded the building code, it's usually really just a quick fix where the inspector says, hey, listen, just go ahead and do this for me. Take a photo, text it to me, submit it on the portal online, and we're good to go. So to me, that's a pass, right? Because we've already engaged with the inspector, explained to him where we are, because we can quote code like, pastors can quote scripture. But at the end of the day, we do understand where they're coming from, where they've made some changes in their own requirements within their city or county, and we have to abide by them. Sometimes when we do get those failings, this is a little caveat, sometimes they have been changes that we were not made aware of at the time of permitting or before. And sometimes we do find out in the field, but again, because we already exceed the code, usually 9 out of 10 times they'll either say, you know what, you guys are good, continue, or you know what, just do this, and add that for me, and I'm good. And we're great, right? So at the end of the day, if you take nothing else away from this video, please understand, getting a permit does not hurt. It actually helps. So, take this takeaway, hire a licensed contractor when doing any kind of renovation work that requires a permit, and definitely when doing new construction. That's a conversation for another time. Folks, thank you so much for joining. I appreciate you. If you like what you've heard, give me a thumbs up. If you don't, leave me a comment. I'd like to know how I can make it better.